The cargo ship Morning Star moved slowly through the darkness of space. Inside the bridge, Captain Daeho Kim sat in his command chair and watched the stars pass by on the main screen. His ship was 3 days away from the frontier colonies, carrying medical supplies and equipment for the settlers there. "Everything looks normal, Captain," said Navigator Yuna Choi from her station. She was checking the sensors for any problems in their path. Daeho nodded. "Good. Let's keep it that way. Haijin, how are our systems?" Lieutenant Haijin Park looked up from her tactical console. "All systems are green, sir. No issues to report." Down in engineering, Jae-won Lee was making his regular checks on the engines. Everything ran smoothly. The Morning Star was not a fancy ship, but it was reliable. That was what mattered on these long routes through empty space. Daeho stood up and stretched. It had been a quiet trip so far. Maybe too quiet. He had learned during his years in space that quiet moments often came before trouble. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," Yuna said suddenly. Her voice was tense. "What is it?" Daeho moved to her station. "Energy signatures. Multiple contacts. They just appeared on sensors." Yuna's fingers moved quickly across her controls. "6 ships, sir. They're decloaking around us." The main screen changed. 6 large warships appeared in the space around the Morning Star. They were dark gray with sharp edges and weapons, bristling from their hulls. Daeho recognized them immediately. "Velkran ships," he said quietly. The Velkrans were known across this part of space. They were raiders and slavers who attacked weaker species. They took what they wanted and forced others to serve them. Daeho had heard many stories about their cruelty. "They're surrounding us, Captain," Haijin reported. Her hands hovered over her console, ready to act. "I see them." Daeho walked back to his chair and sat down calmly. "Everyone stay at your stations. Act normal." An incoming message alert beeped on the communications panel. Daeho nodded to Ensign Tae-Yang-Oh, who opened the channel. A large alien face appeared on the screen. It was Commander Throck, the leader of the Velkran fleet. His skin was dark purple and covered with ridges. His eyes were yellow and cold. When he spoke, his voice was harsh and commanding. "Human vessel, you are surrounded. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. You have 5 minutes to comply. Resist and you will be destroyed." Throck smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "I have done this many times before. Your species always surrenders quickly. You are weak traitors, not warriors. Do not waste my time with false courage." Daeho looked at the alien commander without any emotion on his face. "We need time to discuss this with our crew." Throck laughed. It was an ugly sound. "Discuss? There is nothing to discuss. You surrender or you die. But fine, I will be generous. You have 5 minutes. Use them to say goodbye to your freedom." The communication ended. The screen showed the 6 Velkran ships again. They were moving into a standard capture formation, getting ready to send boarding teams. "Sir, what are we going to do?" Tae-Yang asked quietly. Daeho pressed a button on his chair. "J1, this is the captain. We're at condition red. You know what to do." Down in engineering, J1 smiled. "Understood, sir. Starting the sequence now." On the bridge, Haijin looked at her captain. She had served with him for 3 years. She knew what kind of ship the Morning Star really was. "Should I prepare the surprises, sir?" "Not yet," Daeho said. "Let them get comfortable first. Let them think they've won." Gunner Sung-Min Han sat at the weapons station, which currently showed only basic defensive systems. His hands were steady, but inside he felt the familiar tension before battle. He had been waiting for this moment. Dr. Mei-Sun Kang, the ship's doctor, entered the bridge. "Captain, I've prepared the medical bay for casualties." "Thank you, Doctor," Deho said. "I hope we won't need it, but it's good to be ready." The minutes passed slowly. On the Velcron flagship, Commander Throck watched the human ship with satisfaction. It just sat there in space, doing nothing. Like all the others, these humans would surrender. "Commander, the humans are not moving," one of his officers reported. "Of course not," Throck said. "They are afraid." "As they should be. Prepare the boarding teams. When the time is up, we will take their ship and sell them as slaves. Their cargo will bring good profit." His crew moved quickly to obey. This was routine for them. They had captured dozens of ships from different species. Humans were just another weak race that would serve the Velcron sovereignty. On the Morning Star, Deho watched the countdown timer. 4 minutes had passed. 1 minute remained. "Status report," he ordered. "All weapon systems are online and ready," Hyjin said quietly. "Just waiting for your command." "Power levels at maximum," J1 reported through the comm system. "All panels ready to jettison." "Cyber weapons loaded and targeted," Taeyang added. "Drones armed and ready for deployment," Sungmin confirmed. Deho looked at his crew. They were all watching him, waiting. These were good people. They had trained together for this exact situation. The Morning Star was not really a cargo ship. It was a Q-ship, a military vessel disguised as a merchant freighter. Its job was to hunt hunters, to make raiders think twice before attacking human vessels. The timer reached 30 seconds. "Captain, the Velcrons are hailing us again," Taeyang said. Dao shook his head. "Don't answer. Let Throck wonder." 20 seconds, Deho stood up. He straightened his uniform. Around his ship, 6 Velcron warships waited like predators around prey. They had no idea what was about to happen. They thought humans were soft and weak. They thought this would be easy. 10 seconds. "All hands, this is the captain," Deho announced over the ship-wide comm. "You know what this ship really is. You know what we trained for. Today, we show these raiders what happens when they pick the wrong target." 5 seconds. Deho looked at the Velcron ships on his screen. He thought about all the innocent ships they had captured, all the people they had enslaved, all the families they had destroyed. Not anymore. Not today. The timer hit 0. Deho's voice was calm and cold when he gave the order. "Drop the pretense." The Morning Star came alive. The transformation happened in seconds. The outer hull panels of the Morning Star exploded outward, flying into space like leaves in a storm. Beneath the fake cargo ship exterior, the real vessel revealed itself. Rows of railgun batteries extended from hidden compartments. Missile pods opened along the sides of the ship. Point defense turrets rose from the hull. Shield generators hummed to life, creating a blue shimmer around the entire vessel. The Morning Star was now a warship, bristling with weapons. On the Velcron flagship, Commander Throck stared at his screen in shock. "What is this?" His tactical officer's voice shook. "Commander, they have weapons. Multiple weapon systems coming online. Their power readings are..." Throck never heard the rest. The Morning Star fired first. Hyjin's fingers danced across her console, targeting their lead cruiser. Firing railguns. Metal slugs launched from the Morning Star at incredible speed. They crossed the distance in a heartbeat and smashed into the nearest Velcron ship. The slugs tore through the cruiser's engines like paper. Explosions rippled across its rear section. "Direct hit," Hyjin reported. "Target's engines are destroyed. They're drifting." "Good shot," Deho said. "Sungmin, your turn." Sungmin Han had been waiting for this moment. His hands moved smoothly over the weapons controls, firing missiles. Dozens of kinetic missiles streaked from the Morning Star. They split up and targeted different Velcron ships. The missiles were smart. dodging and weaving as the Vulcans tried to shoot them down. The Vulcan ships finally began to fight back. Their weapons fired wildly, trying to hit the Morning Star. Red energy beams and plasma bolts filled the space around them. Taking fire, Yuna called out. Multiple impacts, but the weapons just splashed against the Morning Star's military shields. The blue energy barrier held firm, absorbing the attacks. Shields at 92%, Hyjin said. No damage. Daeho allowed himself a small smile. They weren't expecting military-grade shields. Taeyang jammed their communications. Ensign Taeyang-O activated the cyber warfare systems. Invisible electronic attacks flooded the Vulcan ships. Their communication systems filled with garbage data. Their targeting computers started giving wrong information. The coordination is breaking down, Captain, Taeyang reported. They can't talk to each other properly. One Vulcan missile got through the point defense fire and hit the Morning Star's port side. The ship shook. Hull breach on Deck 3. J1's voice came through the comm. Sealing it now. No casualties. Dr. Masun was already moving toward Deck 3 with her medical kit, just in case. 2 Vulcan ships broke formation and turned to run. They had seen enough. This was not a helpless cargo ship. This was a trap, and they wanted no part of it. Yundash watched them on her sensors. Captain, 2 contacts are trying to escape. I know, Daeho said calmly. I was counting on that. The 2 fleeing Vulcan ships accelerated toward the edge of the battle area. Their commanders were thinking only about survival. They did not see the danger ahead. During the 5-minute countdown, while the Vulcans thought the Morning Star was preparing to surrender, Yuna had been busy. She had calculated exactly where ships would try to run. The Morning Star had quietly deployed mines. Along those escape routes, the fleeing ships hit the minefield at full speed. Explosions bloomed in the darkness. The mines tore into the Vulcan ships. Their shields collapsed. Their hulls split open. Air and debris sprayed into space. 2 more targets eliminated, Yuna said quietly. That left 4 Vulcan ships. The one was already crippled and drifting. 3 remained in the fight, including Commander Throk's flagship. Throk's face appeared on the screen again. This time he was not smiling. His yellow eyes burned with rage. You will pay for this, humans. All ships, concentrate fire on that vessel. Destroy them. The 3 functioning Vulcan ships moved together. They focused all their weapons on the Morning Star. The barrage was intense. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and missiles hammered against the shields. The Morning Star shook hard. Sparks flew from damaged consoles on the bridge. Shields at 60%, Hyjin called out. 50%. They're dropping fast. Down in engineering, J1 was working frantically, rerouting power from non-essential systems to the shields. Captain, we can hold, but not for long. Daeho gripped his chair as another blast rocked the ship. We don't need long. Hyjin, target the flagship's weapons. Already on it, sir. The Morning Star fired back even as it took damage. Railgun fire focused on Throk's flagship, targeting the weapon emplacements. One by one, the Vulcan guns went silent as human fire destroyed them. But there were still 2 other ships pouring fire into the Morning Star. Shields at 30%, Hyjin said. Her voice was tense now. Hull breaches on decks 2 and 5, J1 reported. We're taking damage. Dr. Masun's voice came through. I have wounded on deck 5. 3 crew members injured. Daeho made a decision. Yuna, plot a ramming course. Straight at the flagship. Sir? Yuna looked shocked. You heard me. Full speed, directly at Throk's ship. Yuna swallowed hard and programmed the course. Course laid in, Captain. Engage. The Morning Star suddenly accelerated. charging straight at the Velcron flagship like an ancient warship ramming an enemy. All weapons fired as they moved. On the Velcron flagship, Throck watched the human ship come at him. For the first time in his long career as a raider, he felt real fear. Evasive maneuvers. He screamed, but the flagship was too big and too slow. It could not turn fast enough. At the last possible moment, Deho ordered, "Yuna, brake hard to port." The Morning Star turned sharply, missing the flagship by mere meters. But as it passed, every weapon on the ship fired at point-blank range into the Velcron vessel's side. The damage was catastrophic. The flagship's shields collapsed completely. Railgun fire punched through its armor. Missiles exploded inside its hull. The proud warship began to list to one side, badly wounded. Direct hit, Sumin reported with satisfaction, but the victory came at a cost. The Morning Star had taken too much damage. Alarms blared across the bridge. "Shields at 8%, Hyjin said. "We can't take much more." "Multiple system failures," J1 added. "I'm doing what I can, but we need repairs." The two remaining Velcron escort ships moved in for the kill. They saw the Morning Star's shields were nearly gone. They prepared to finish off the human vessel. Nihon knew they could not win against two fresh ships, not with their shields so low. He was about to order his crew to prepare for boarding actions when Taeyang suddenly shouted, "Captain, new contacts on sensors. Multiple hyperspace signatures incoming." Everyone on the bridge froze. "How many?" Deho asked. Taeyang checked his console. His eyes went wide. 12 ships, sir. No, 13. They're human signatures. It's a Terran fleet." On the Velcron ships, sensors were showing the same thing. Commander Throck, wounded and bleeding in his damaged bridge, saw the hyperspace windows opening. His triumph turned to ash. The first ship to appear was a destroyer. It dropped out of hyperspace directly between the Morning Star and the attacking Velcron ships. Its weapons were already armed and ready. Then came more ships. Cruisers, frigates, another destroyer. They emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, a wall of human military power. The Velcron escort ships immediately turned to run. But they were too late. A voice boomed across all frequencies. It was calm and cold and absolutely certain. "Velcron vessels. This is Admiral Hyansik Shin of the Terran 7th Fleet. You have attacked a coalition ship in our territory. Power down your weapons immediately or be destroyed. You have 10 seconds. There will be no second warning." Commander Throck looked at the fleet arrayed against him. His ship was crippled. His fleet was destroyed. His pride had led them all to ruin. He chose to fight anyway. The 10 seconds passed in silence. The Velcron ships did not power down their weapons. Commander Throck, bleeding and furious in his ruined bridge, gave the order to fire one last time. It was the last mistake he would ever make. The Terran fleet opened fire as one. It was not a battle. It was an execution. Destroyer Relentless, commanded by Captain Narration, fired first. A railgun spoke with perfect accuracy. The Velcron escort ships died quickly, their hulls torn apart by the concentrated fire. The other human ships targeted Throck's flagship. Missiles streaked through space. Energy weapons carved through what remained of the Velcron shields. In less than 3 minutes, the once proud warship was a burning wreck, its engines dead, its weapons silent. "Cease fire," Admiral Hyansik Shin ordered from his command ship. "Marines, prepare for boarding operations." On the Morning Star, the crew watched in stunned silence as the battle ended so quickly. They had been seconds away from destruction. Now, they were safe. "Captain, Admiral Shin is hailing us," Taeyang said. Deho straightened his uniform, which was torn and dirty from the battle. "Put him through." An older man appeared on the screen. Admiral Shin had gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. His uniform was perfectly pressed, despite being in the middle of a military operation. "Captain Kim," the Admiral said, "your distress signal came through just in time. Report your status." "The Morning Star is damaged but operational, sir. We have casualties but no deaths. The ship needs repairs." Admiral Shin nodded. "Well done, Captain. You and your crew performed admirably. Stand by for damage control teams. We'll get you patched up." "Thank you, sir." The Admiral's expression hardened. "And Captain? That was one hell of a fight you put up before we arrived. The sensor recordings will be very useful for our training programs." The channel closed. Daeho sat down heavily in his chair. The adrenaline was wearing off, and exhaustion was taking its place. Hyjin looked at him. "Sir, we actually did it." "We did," Daeho agreed. "But it was too close. If the fleet hadn't arrived when it did." He did not need to finish the sentence. Everyone on the bridge knew how close they had come to dying. Dr. Mi-sun's voice came through the comm. "Captain, final casualty report. We have 7 injured crew members. 3 serious, 4 minor. Everyone will recover." "Thank you, Doctor." "Good work." Daeho rubbed his tired eyes. "J1, how bad is the damage?" The engineer's response was not encouraging. "We have hull breaches on 4 decks. The shield generators need major repairs. 2 of our railgun batteries are offline. The port-side missile pod is completely destroyed. It will take weeks to fix everything properly. Start with what you can. Help is on the way." Over the next hour, Terran ships surrounded the area. Damage control teams came aboard the Morning Star and began emergency repairs. Medical teams took the injured crew members to the fleet's hospital ship. Marines in combat armor boarded what was left of the Velkran flagship. They found Commander Throck alive but badly hurt. His crew had mostly died in the battle. The Marines took him and the other survivors into custody. Later that day, Daeho was called to Admiral Shin's ship for a briefing. He took a shuttle across and was escorted to the conference room. Inside, he found Admiral Shin, Captain Nari, and a stern-looking man in a dark suit. The man introduced himself as Director Junho Park from Terran Intelligence. "Captain Kim, thank you for coming," Director Junho said. "Please, sit down." Daeho sat. He had a bad feeling about this meeting. "We've been interrogating the Velkran prisoners," the director continued. "What we learned is disturbing." He activated a holographic display. It showed maps of space, with Velkran territory marked in red and human space in blue. "This was not a random pirate raid," Director Junho explained. "Commander Throck was following orders from the Velkran Sovereignty's military command. They've been testing our defenses, gathering information about our ships and weapons." Admiral Shin leaned forward. "In other words, they're preparing for war." Daeho felt cold. "How long do we have?" "Unknown. Throck claimed dozens of Velkran fleets are being assembled. They believe they can overwhelm us with numbers." Director Junho's face was grim. "They think we're weak, that we're just peaceful traders who won't fight back." "They thought wrong," Captain Nari said quietly. "Yes, but the problem is bigger than one battle," the director said. "The Velkrans aren't the only species watching us. There are others out there, other predators, waiting to see if we're easy prey." Admiral Shin stood and walked to the window. Outside, the damaged Morning Star hung in space while repair crews swarmed over it. "We have a decision to make," the Admiral said. "We can keep this quiet, prepare our defenses quietly, and wait for them to attack. Or we can send a message. Not just to the Velkrans, but to everyone watching." "What kind of message?" Daeho asked. Director Junho smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. "The kind that makes them think twice before attacking any human ship ever again," A new person entered the room. She was a woman in diplomatic robes, with kind eyes but a strong presence. "I'm Ambassador Yoonji Han," she said. "I'll be delivering that message." She sat down and looked at each of them. "Gentlemen, humanity has been in space for 50 years. In that time, we've been peaceful. We've traded fairly, respected boundaries, made friends. But some species see our peaceful nature as weakness. The Vulcans made that mistake," Daeho said. "And they paid for it," Ambassador Yoonji agreed. "But will others learn from their example? Or will we have to teach this lesson over and over again?" Admiral Shin returned to the table. "High Command has authorized Protocol Prometheus." Daeho had heard of Protocol Prometheus. It was a contingency plan that had been developed years ago but never used. It was simple and brutal. Any attack on human vessels or colonies would be met with overwhelming force. Not just defense, but complete destruction of the attacker's ability to threaten humanity again. "We're really doing this?" he asked. "We have to," Director Junho said. "If we show weakness now, we'll be fighting defensive wars for decades. But if we show strength, real strength, maybe we won't have to fight at all." Ambassador Yoonji stood. "I'm going to record a message to be broadcast across all known space. Every species with communications technology will receive it. They need to understand what happened here and what will happen to anyone who follows the Vulcan's example." She looked at Daeho. "Captain, your ship's sensor logs will be included in the broadcast. The galaxy will see what happens when someone ambushes a human vessel." The meeting continued for another hour, discussing details and strategies. When it finally ended, Daeho returned to the Morning Star. His crew was working hard on repairs. They looked tired but determined. When they saw their captain return, they stopped and looked at him. "Listen up," Daeho said. "What we did today was just the beginning. The fight we survived is going to change everything. The galaxy is going to learn that humanity is not prey. We're not victims. We try peace and will always prefer peace. But if someone comes at us with violence, we'll respond with total destruction." He paused and looked at each crew member. "I'm proud of every one of you. You fought well. You survived. And because of what we did here, maybe fewer humans will have to fight in the future." Across the fleet, activity increased. Ships moved into defensive positions. Communication arrays transmitted Ambassador Yoonji's message to every corner of known space, and in a small escape pod, flying desperately toward Vulcan space, a survivor named So-Jin watched footage of the battle over and over. She had escaped during the chaos, too terrified to stay and fight. Now she was racing home with proof of what had happened. When she arrived and showed her commanders the footage of the Vulcan fleet's destruction, everything would change. The question was, would the Vulcans learn the lesson, or would their pride demand revenge? The answer came 3 days later, when the Vulcan sovereignty declared war on humanity. Ambassador Yoonji Han stood in the recording studio aboard the flagship. The camera was ready. Behind her, a large display showed the symbol of the Terran Coalition, a blue Earth. Surrounded by stars, she had written and rewritten her speech a dozen times. Every word mattered. This message would reach hundreds of species across dozens of star systems. It would define how the galaxy saw humanity for years to come. Director Junho gave her a nod from behind the camera. "We're ready when you are, Ambassador." Yoonji took a deep breath and began. "To all species of the galactic community, I am Ambassador Yoonji Han of the Terran Coalition. I speak to you today about an incident that occurred 3 days ago in our territory." The display behind her changed, showing the Morning Star before the attack. A human cargo vessel. The Morning Star was conducting a peaceful supply mission to our frontier colonies. Without warning or provocation, 6 warships of the Vulcan sovereignty ambushed this vessel. The Vulcans demanded surrender and threatened to enslave our crew. The footage showed the Vulcan ships decloaking around the Morning Star. For 50 years, humanity has traveled the stars in peace. We have traded fairly, respected boundaries, and sought friendship with all species. We chose diplomacy over force. We chose cooperation over conflict. Our voice became harder, colder, but some mistook our peaceful nature for weakness. The Vulcans believed humans would surrender without a fight. They were wrong. The display now showed the Morning Star transforming, its weapons emerging, the battle beginning. The footage was clear and detailed. Every species watching would see exactly what happened. The Morning Star was not a helpless merchant ship. It was a military vessel designed to protect our trade routes from pirates and raiders. When the Vulcans attacked, they received a response they did not expect. The footage showed the Vulcan ships being destroyed one by one. It showed the human fleet arriving. It showed the final destruction of Commander Throg's forces. This is what happens when you attack humanity with the intention of enslaving us. This is what happens when you mistake our desire for peace as inability to wage war. Eunji stepped forward, looking directly into the camera. Let me be absolutely clear. Humanity will always prefer peace. We will always choose trade over war, dialogue over destruction. But if you come to us with violence, if you attack our ships, if you threaten our people, we will not simply defend ourselves. We will ensure you can never threaten us again. She paused, letting the words sink in. The Vulcan sovereignty has lost 6 warships and over 2,000 crew members. They attacked a single human vessel. They received the destruction of an entire fleet in return. This is not cruelty. This is a promise. Attack us and the response will be overwhelming. The display showed the wreckage of Vulcan ships floating in space. We broadcast this message not as a threat, but as a warning. Humanity is willing to live in peace with all species. But we will not be prey. We will not be victims. We will not surrender to those who seek to enslave us. Eunji's voice softened slightly. To those species who trade with us fairly, who respect our boundaries, who seek friendship, nothing has changed. You remain our valued partners and friends. But to those who watch from the shadows, planning raids and attacks, hear this clearly. Choose another target. Choose another species. Because if you choose humanity, you choose total war. And we will win. She bowed slightly. I am Ambassador Yoon-ji Han. Thank you for listening. The camera stopped recording. Director Junho looked pleased. That was perfect, Ambassador. Strong but not aggressive. Clear without being threatening. Will it work? Yoon-ji asked. We'll find out soon enough. The message was transmitted across known space that same day. It was broadcast on every frequency, translated into every major language. Within hours, it reached the furthest colonies and outposts. The reactions were mixed. Many species that had friendly relations with humanity supported the message. They had seen the Vulcans' cruelty firsthand and thought they deserved what they got. Some neutral species became nervous. They wondered if humanity was becoming too aggressive, too willing to use force. And the predatory species, the raiders and slavers, watched the footage carefully. Some decided humanity was too dangerous to attack. Others saw it as propaganda and refused to believe it. The Vulcan sovereignty had the strongest reaction. When the escape pod carrying So-jin arrived at their homeworld, she was immediately taken to military headquarters. Her footage of the battle was analyzed by their best tactical minds. The Vulcan Pride Senate, their ruling council, gathered to watch. They saw their ships destroyed. They saw their warriors defeated. They saw Commander Throg's flagship reduced to burning wreckage. The oldest senator, a warrior named Krell, spoke first. This is humiliating. The humans have made fools of us. They killed 2,000 of our people, another senator added. Our pride demands vengeance. They want us to be afraid, Krell said. They broadcast this message to frighten us into submission. But we are Velkrans. We do not bow to anyone. Some senators argued for caution. They pointed out that the humans clearly had better weapons and tactics than expected. They suggested waiting, learning more, preparing better. But pride won over wisdom that the Pride Senate voted unanimously for war. They would not accept this humiliation. They would not let the humans think they could defeat the Velkran. Sovereignty without consequences. Orders went out across Velkran space. Every fleet was recalled. Every ship was armed. Every soldier was mobilized. The Velkrans would gather their grand armada, 300 of their finest warships, and crush humanity once and for all. Back in Terran space, Director Junho received intelligence reports about the Velkran. Mobilization. They're actually doing it, he said to Admiral Shin. They're gathering their entire military for an invasion. The Admiral was not surprised. Pride is a dangerous thing. They can't accept being beaten, so they'll throw everything at us. Can we win? Against 300 ships? Admiral Shin thought for a moment. If we fight smart, yes. We have better technology, better training, and now we have warning. Supreme Commander Oneseek is already positioning our fleets. He pulled up a star map. The Velkrans will likely target New Bizan colony. It's our newest settlement, relatively lightly defended. They'll want a quick victory to restore their pride. What if you're wrong? Then we adjust. But I don't think I'm wrong. The Velkrans are predictable. They value glory and honor over tactics and strategy. They'll choose the target that gives them the most dramatic victory. Director Junho looked at the map. New Bizan was home to 2 million colonists, mostly families who had recently arrived to start new lives. We can't let them reach the colony. We won't, Admiral Shin promised. Supreme Commander Oneseek is sending 3 full fleets. The 1st, 3rd, and 7th. Combined, that's over 100 ships, plus orbital defenses and ground installations. Still outnumbered, 3-1. Admiral Shin smiled grimly. Numbers aren't everything. The Velkrans are about to learn that lesson the hard way. Across human space, fleets moved into position. Supply lines were established. Defenses were reinforced. Every ship, every soldier, every commander prepared for the coming battle. Captain Daeho and the crew of the Morning Star watched the preparations from their repair dock. Their ship was still being fixed, but they could see the warships assembling, ready to protect their people. Do you think we started this? Hyjin asked quietly. Daeho shook his head. No, the Velkrans started this when they decided humans were easy prey. We just showed them the truth. Now they have to decide if they can accept it or if their pride will destroy them. What do you think they'll choose? Daeho looked at the gathering fleet. I think they'll choose pride. And I think they'll regret it. 3 weeks later, sensors detected the Velkran Grand Armada entering Terran space. 300 warships moving in perfect formation, heading directly for New Bizan colony. Admiral Shin had been right. Now came the hard part, proving that humanity's message was not just words, but a promise they could keep. The colony of New Bizan orbited a blue-green planet on the edge of human territory. 2 million colonists lived there, building farms and cities, raising families, dreaming of peaceful futures. They did not know that 300 Velkran warships were coming to destroy everything they had built. But Supreme Commander Oneseek Choi knew. And he was ready. From his command ship Indomitable, Fleet Admiral Eugene Lim watched the Velkran Grand Armada approach on her sensors. The enemy fleet was massive, blocking out the stars with their numbers. All ships report ready, Admiral. Her tactical officer reported. Eugene looked at the display. The 1st, Third and Seventh Fleets were positioned around New Bizen in a defensive sphere. 112 human warships against 300 Velkran vessels. The odds were bad, but Yujin had faced worse. "Open a channel to all ships," she ordered. Her face appeared on screens across the entire fleet. "This is Admiral Lim. The Velkrans chose war. They rejected our offer of peace. They ignored our warning. Now they come to our home, to our colony, to enslave our people. Today, we show them why that was a mistake. Today, we protect our own. All ships, prepare for battle. Let's send these raiders back to whatever hole they crawled from." Across the fleet, crews rushed to battle stations. Weapons powered up. Shields activated. Fighters launched from carrier bays. On New Bizen, the colonists watched from underground shelters. They had been evacuated from the surface cities. Now orbital defense platforms hung above them, ready to fight. The Velkran fleet entered the system. Their commander, Grand Admiral Vorak, looked at the human defenses and sneered. "Only 100 ships? The Velkrans had 300. This would be a glorious victory. All ships, attack formation," Vorak ordered. "Destroy the orbital platforms first, then the ships. Show them the true power of the Velkran sovereignty." The Grand Armada moved forward. Weapons charging. Yujin did not wait for them to fire first. "All ships," she commanded. "Open fire." The human fleet unleashed everything at once. Railguns fired from every ship. Missiles streaked across space in waves. Energy weapons cut through the darkness. The opening salvo was devastating. The Velkrans fired back, but their formations were too tight, too rigid. They had trained for glory, not efficiency. When human missiles hit their clustered ships, explosions damaged multiple vessels at once. "Enemy shields holding on most ships," Yujin's tactical officer reported. "But we're causing damage." "Good. Launch the Cascade torpedoes." These were new weapons, developed by Chief Scientist Bora Kang. Each torpedo did not just destroy its target. When it exploded, it created a chain reaction that disabled nearby ships. The first Cascade torpedo hit a Velkran battleship. The explosion was normal at first, but then energy waves rippled outward. Every ship within 500 meters had their systems shut down. Engines failed. Weapons went offline. Shields collapsed. Human ships immediately targeted these disabled vessels, destroying them before they could recover. The Velkrans had never seen anything like it. Their tight formations became death traps. Every Cascade torpedo took out multiple ships. "Spread out!" Grand Admiral Vorak screamed. "Break formation!" But breaking formation meant losing coordination. The Velkran ships scattered, each fighting alone. The human fleet, trained to work as units, picked them off systematically. Captain Nari's destroyer Relentless led a squadron against the Velkran right flank. Her ships moved in perfect sync, covering each other, focusing fire on one target at a time. Velkran ships died quickly under this coordinated assault. On the left flank, Admiral Hyan Sik Shin commanded the 7th Fleet. His ships used hit-and-run tactics, striking fast and hard before retreating behind the orbital platforms for cover. In the center, Yujin's 1st Fleet held the line. The Indomitable was a massive carrier, and from its bays, hundreds of fighters swarmed out. These small craft were too fast for Velkran weapons to track. They struck at engines and weapon systems, crippling ship after ship. The battle raged for 6 hours. It was brutal and merciless. The Velkrans fought with courage, but courage was not enough against superior tactics and technology. By the 4th hour, the Grand Armada had lost over 100 ships. The Velkrans began to break. Some tried to flee. Human ships hunted them down, destroying their engines, forcing them to surrender. Grand Admiral Vorak watched his fleet die around him. He had been promised glory. He had been told the humans were weak. Every promise had been a lie. All ships retreat. He finally ordered. Fall back to Rally Point Delta. But there was no rally point. The human fleet had positioned itself to cut off every escape route. Vulcan ships that tried to run found themselves trapped, surrounded. Destroyed. Eugene watched the carnage on her display. She felt no joy in it, only grim satisfaction. This had to be done. The galaxy needed to see what happened when someone attacked humanity. "Admiral, enemy flagship is attempting to escape," a tactical officer said. "All ships converge on the flagship. I want it disabled, not destroyed. We're taking prisoners this time." The entire human fleet turned their attention to Varroc's ship. Precision fire destroyed its engines, its weapons, its communications. Within minutes, the flagship was a helpless wreck, drifting in space. "Send the Marines," Eugene ordered. Colonel Jin Woo-beek led the boarding party. His Marines stormed the Velcron flagship and found Grand Admiral Varroc on the bridge, injured but alive. The Velcron commander looked at the human soldiers in their armor and finally understood the truth. His people had attacked the wrong enemy. When the battle ended, the counts were staggering. Of the 300 Velcron ships, 203 were destroyed. 78 were captured intact. Only 19 escaped, and Eugene had let them go on purpose. They would carry the story back to Velcron space. The human fleet had lost 8 ships. Only 8, but Supreme Commander One-Seek was not finished. He had promised total destruction, and he meant it. Over the next 2 weeks, human fleets struck deep into Velcron territory. They targeted military bases, shipyards, weapons factories. Not civilian cities, not homes. Humanity still had its ethics. But every military installation was systematically destroyed. The Velcron sovereignty tried to defend itself, but their fleet was gone. Their best ships were debris. Their greatest warriors were prisoners or dead. Finally, the Velcron Pride Senate sent a message. They surrendered, unconditionally. The treaty was harsh. The Velcrons would completely disarm. They would pay reparations to rebuild damaged human ships and stations. A Terran monitoring base would be established in their capital system. The once mighty raiders were reduced to a protectorate, watched and controlled. Captain Deho, his ship finally repaired, received a promotion to Commodore. He was given command of a new Q-ship program. The Morning Star became the template. Dozens of ships that looked like harmless merchants but hid military power would patrol human space, protecting trade routes. 3 months after the Battle of New Bizen, Ambassador Yunji stood before the Galactic Council. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the chamber, all watching her. 3 months ago, the Velcron sovereignty attacked a human ship, she began. They believed we were weak. They believed we would surrender without a fight. They learned otherwise. She gestured to a display showing the destruction of the Velcron fleet. Humanity came to the stars seeking friends and partners. We found wonders. We traded, learned, grew. But we also found predators who saw our peaceful nature as weakness. Her voice became firm. Let the fate of the Velcron sovereignty be a lesson. We will not start wars. We prefer peace. But if you attack us, if you threaten our people, if you attempt to enslave our citizens, we will respond with overwhelming force. Not to conquer, not to enslave, but to ensure you can never threaten us again. She looked around the chamber at all the different species. We remain open to friendship with all who approach in good faith. But to those who might consider us prey, remember this. Humanity tried peace first. We gave warnings. We showed mercy. If you reject these and choose violence, you choose total war. And we will finish what you start. The chamber was silent. Ambassador Yunji bowed and left the chamber. Behind her, representatives whispered among themselves. Some were afraid. Some were respectful. All understood the new reality. Humanity was no longer the newcomers to be tested. They were not victims to be raided. They were a power to be respected. In the months and years that followed, attacks on human ships dropped to almost zero. Raiders and pirates found easier targets. Aggressive species reconsidered their expansion plans when they boarded human space. And on the Morning Star, Commodore Deho and his crew continued their patrols. The ship looked like a simple cargo vessel, harmless and slow. But anyone who made the mistake of attacking it would learn the same lesson the Vulcans had learned. Humanity had come to the stars in peace. The peace was a choice, not a weakness. And when that choice was rejected, humanity showed exactly what they were capable of: total destruction.